Welcome back to Games with Dad. I'm your host, Dad, as always, and today we're doing something a little bit different, just due to how busy my summer is with my job, unfortunately. With vacations planned, I don't have as much time as I would typically to make a normal video. So to substitute, instead of just not doing a video, I'm going to do a couple of different video types to see kind of if anything works. So we're going to experiment, and today I have made a tier list for old school Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games, because making lists is fun and people like lists. If they didn't, then modern journalism like BuzzFeed would not exist, and we all know that it does. So let's start off. So our categories are: for S tier, God, I love being a turtle. For A tier, it's very cowabunga, as my wife says. B tier is flawed but fun. C tier, as bad as late pizza, which, it's not great, but at least you're getting pizza, right? And then down at the bottom is cowabummer. So, starting off, we've got the original Turtles NES game, which is the first Ninja Turtles game to come out according to Wikipedia. So it's just an action-adventure game. You start off and it's like almost like a Legend of Zelda type, where there's enemies on the streets and you get to go inside sewers and buildings, that kind of thing. Very cool, but it gets difficult very quickly. The second level is pretty infamous. It's the dam level. And then a lot of people can't get past the dam level. But further on, there's some elements of RNG that can really just destroy your love of the game when you're trying to find things like the Technodrome. It's a big in the speedrun community for Ninja Turtles. This is it's a big run killer if you just don't get good RNG. So for that reason, I'm gonna place this in the C tier, which is as bad as late pizza. It's still a fairly good game. There's some good concepts behind it. It's not the worst Ninja Turtles game by any means. So 1989 arcade game. So the 1989 arcade game is probably one of my favorite games in the Turtles franchise, just because of my memories with it. As far as beat 'em ups go, it's fairly simplistic. There's a couple of attacks. There's jump attacks that you get different attacks depending on how high up in the air you are when you press the attack button. Then there's also a secret attack that doesn't cost any stamina, and you can whip enemies back and forth, that kind of thing. It's a pretty fun game. None of the turtles are very different from each other. They each have pretty similar reach, with the exception of Donatello, who is my favorite. It gets pretty difficult. It's a little quarter munchy towards the end with the final boss fights, especially with Krang and Shredder. It can really get difficult quickly. But regardless of that, it's got 4-player co-op. I played this at Chuck E. Cheese when I was little, and then I ended up getting the port that they released on the Xbox 360. Ubisoft somehow got the rights to it in 2007, right when the fourth Ninja Turtles movie came out, the reboot, the first reboot, and I played this thing to death. It's a definite cowabunga. I don't know if it's the greatest Ninja Turtles game. I'm gonna be a little pious here. I love this game to death. It's not the best Turtles arcade game even, so we'll see that one later on. Okay, so those are both games that came out in 1989. In 1990, we got Ninja Turtles Fall of the Foot Clan. Probably should have ordered these. You know what? Let's order these real quick here. Cut this part out. Future me, cut this part out. Okay. And we're back. Look at that. Amazing things happen when you're organized and you don't have to look like an idiot on the internet. So, first Game Boy game, Follow the Foot Clan, very simplistic. It's a just a standard 2D, not even like an old school beat 'em up where you can move up and down planes, that kind of thing. Strictly side-scrolling, and then enemies come at you from the left and right. It's very simplistic. The other Game Boy games, in my opinion, are much better. And for that reason, we're going to put this as bad as Late Pizza. Okay, after that, the TMNT 2 on the NES, the arcade game. This is one of the first games I ever played, so I'm a little biased. Gonna be honest. Gonna be super honest here. I love this game to death. I've got very fond memories. It's a port of the TMNT 1989 arcade game to the NES, because you can't have 4 players, obviously. Well, you could, if you had the special like Hudson Soft adapter thing that you could use for like Bomberman or something like that. I don't know. I'm not an expert on that. But there's only 2 players, which is a little lame. But the levels themselves are longer, and there are more of them. To add on top of that, you don't have infinite quarters or infinite continues. And you just can't just pump quarters into an NES, because that's not how life works, Dad. So it's a quite difficult game. You really kind of have to master it in order to beat it without cheats, which is something that I have not done. I would actually kind of like to. I think I usually average about 4 or 5 deaths every time I play it now. I usually just turn infinite lives on, because why wouldn't you? It's just an arcade game. But later down the road, yeah, I would love to try and do runs of the TMNT arcade game on NES. But that's beside the point. Where do I think this game stands? Flawed but fun. I think it's better than the original Turtles game. And I think it's better than this, Follow the Foot Clan. But it's nowhere near as good as the arcade game. Although the music is fire. I prefer the actual like Konami NES chiptunes to the arcade board sounds. Next up, TMNT Manhattan Missions. This was a PC only game. It was on DOS. This game is hot garbage. I'm gonna be frank. This game, it's not good. The controls are stiff. Doesn't even begin to describe how bad the controls are. It's set up almost like Prince of Persia, but then it asks you to like fight things. It's got Triceratons in it, which is really cool, because TMNT games have a history of putting like a Triceraton on the cover and then never doing anything with them, which is hilarious. I mean, it's not all bad. It's still a very bad game. I would not recommend anyone try, even if you're a Turtles fan. You can switch between all the turtles. There's a myriad of locales. It's probably a little more faithful than like the Konami Turtle games, which is neato. So yeah, Manhattan Missions, definite cowabummer in my book. Okay, TMNT 4 Turtles in Time, God tier. God, I love being a turtle. It's the 1989 arcade game, but 2 years later, it's just a complete assault on the senses for kids in the arcade back in the early 90s. Came out in 91. And you still get to play as all 4 turtles, obviously, but the movesets are a little bit more expanded. There's a run move. The super move now takes away health, because that's something that Final Fight did, and now everyone wants to be Final Fight, so we're going to do that now. Which I personally don't like, because it gives you, in my opinion, less options in the long run. But instead of just going through like the streets of like New York and all this kind of fun stuff like the original arcade game, Shredder traps the turtles and sends them in time. Is like, I'm sick of dealing with you guys. Go have fun. But somehow they fight their way through like the prehistoric era, then like the Wild West, and like there's a pirate ship level. It's very fun. The locales are fantastic. They even go to the future for a little bit, and then they come back and they beat Shredder up. Fantastic game. Probably a lot of people's GOAT, greatest of all time, Turtle games. Fantastic in every right. Pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty good game. After that is TMNT 2, Back to the Sewers. It's a sequel to the original one. You can select turtles between stages like the first game. But when a turtle is defeated in a stage, he is captured. You basically, in order to get your lives back or your turtles back, you have to finish that level with another turtle. I think it is flawed but fun. And then the way I'm going to organize it is, the left side is the best side, and the right side is the closer to the other tier. So I think it's probably a little better than... I enjoy it more than the first NES game. The movesets are a little bit better. The sprite work is a little bit better. And the chiptunes are pretty good. Not as good as TMNT 19... we'll put it down there. It's still not great. But it's pretty good. Next up, Manhattan Project. This was the NES only sequel. Technically, it's TMNT 3, even though TMNT 4 is Turtles in Time, strictly speaking. So 4 came out before 3. There is a Triceraton on the cover art. There are no Triceratons in the Manhattan Project. Strictly speaking, this is the best NES game for the Turtles by far. Probably one of the best beat 'em up games on the Turtles. It's very much like the arcade game, but there's added movesets. The super moves are actually super cool now. When they take away health, like Raph gets his like Psycho Crusher spin drill move thing. Raph is very powerful in this game, and the Turtles have different stats now. It's super awesome. I think Turtles had different stats in Turtles in Time, but they didn't show it. I don't think they show it in Manhattan Project, but I think it's a little bit more pronounced, which is very cowabunga, in my opinion. So the story is Shredder captures April O'Neil and the rest of the city of New York, or at least Manhattan, and he rockets it up into the air like, haha, you'll never get me. I don't know why he does this, but the Turtles are like chilling on some beach in Florida. I think they're in like Key West in the first level. And then instead of just like Shredder being like, yeah, whatever, I'm gonna take my city and leave, he decides to spend all of his resources making sure the Turtles don't get to New York City, which is very funny. So the Turtles get to New York City, and surprise, surprise, they end up beating Shredder, that kind of thing. Very fun game. More difficult than the arcade game, if you'll believe it, even though that there is a designated throw move now, where a turtle can just like poke a foot soldier and then just yeet him over their head. It's a very fun game. I think it's more fun than TMNT 2, but it is still a very difficult game. I might try... I've never beaten this without cheats. So, next up is Turtles in Time, the port. I'm going to put this next to where it belongs, which is its daddy. And some people would actually put it up here, and in some respects I would agree with them. So the port on the Super Nintendo, super good. Probably one of the best ports ever. You lose some of the graphical fidelity, obviously. Not as noticeable. You also lose a lot of the voices of the arcade, which is lame, but at the same time, I'm not big on hearing voices all the time because I just like the music so much. So there's trade-offs. Like the NES port of the original arcade game, some of the levels are a bit longer, and there are more levels. Like there's an extra Technodrome level before Shredder sends everyone back in time, which is cool, and there's an extra Shredder fight. Very cowabunga. Yeah, so in my opinion, yes. TMNT 4, Turtles in Time for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Definite S tier, one of the greatest One of the greatest games on the Super Nintendo, if I'm being frank. It's definitely one of my favorites. It's so good that I spent probably too much money trying to get a cart back in 2013. 2013? No, it's 2015 when I found that cart. I've been looking for a Turtles in Time cart for a while, and one popped up for like $60, and I was like, yeah, I'd rather play this than like a like a modern game. So alongside Turtles in Time on the Super Nintendo, Konami decided that they were finally going to start putting things on the Sega Genesis, even after it had been out for 3 years. Because Sonic the Hedgehog was doing well, and they're like, well, we want a part of this. So they took bits of TMNT 3, TMNT 4, and they slapped them together, and then you create the Hyperstone Heist, which in my opinion is actually better. If I can get, there we go. It's better than the 1989 arcade game for a couple of reasons, and in some ways, I actually prefer it to Turtles in Time on Super Nintendo. Right? This game can have a dedicated run button. I don't know why there isn't one on Turtles in Time. You can switch it to double tap, which is very, I mean, that's what you would normally do nowadays. But otherwise, you just have to hold down like the walk button for like 2 seconds, and then you start running, and then by the time you start running, you're already on the other side of the screen, so it's not very useful. This one has a dedicated run button, and it's fantastic. I love this game. The locales are very boring. I'll give them that. It's much more 1989 arcade game-esque, where everything's kind of in New York, and then they go to like a shredder's hideout, and then there's the Technodrome. There's a surfing section too, so I mean, like, but that's basically, again, ripped straight out of like the Manhattan Project. Also ripped out of the Manhattan Project is a lot of the songs, and then a lot of the songs from Turtles in Time, and then a couple of new songs. I actually prefer the Genesis's sound chip for these songs as opposed to the Super Nintendo sound chip, because the Genesis does percussive, like, rock and roll style chip tunes, in my opinion, a bit better. So I actually prefer the soundtrack in Hyperstone Heist to Turtles in Time, and that's blasphemy in some circles. I could be like excommunicated. That's serious business, pal. I just spilled my coffee. Oh no! My new shirt. My day off. Ruined. Okay, so that came out in '92. Good game. If you like the other Turtle beat-em-up games and haven't played Hyperstone Heist, go ahead and do so. You might not like it as much as the other ones, but I do. Radical Rescue. This, in my opinion, obviously the best Turtles Game Boy game. It's almost like a Metroidvania. Where you start off as Mikey and you got to rescue the other turtles. Once you rescue the other turtles, you can use them and then use their abilities to get to new areas. It's super cool, and a very good idea for the turtles. Still 2D, obviously. It's not. There's no back and forth planes like the arcade style beat 'em ups. But I think they finally like really kind of cracked the formula with this one. Okay, next up, the 3 Ninja Turtles tournament fighters, one of them the NES, one on the Super Nintendo, and one on the Sega Genesis. And I love all 3 of these for different reasons. But the Genesis game is bad. It's not very fluid. The controls aren't great. Much better fighting games on the Sega Genesis. All 3 of the Mortal Kombats are much better. The Street Fighter games sound awful on Genesis, but they play a lot better than even the Super Nintendo, depending on which version you're playing. So this game, they don't have a cohesive story across all 3, because I guess Konami just didn't want to do that. I don't know. This one, you're flying across the galaxy. I don't even think there's a Triceraton in this game, even though Konami put a Triceraton on the box art. I'm pretty sure there isn't a Triceraton in this game. and like there's clone turtles, and you can play as April and Casey Jones, which is cool. I like Casey Jones. He's a himbo. But yeah, the Genesis game is the worst of the three, which is funny because this game is on the NES, and I believe it was like the last. If it wasn't the last NES game by Konami, which I know it definitely was, I think it might have been like the last NES game actually published in North America. Let me Google this real quick. Hold on. Yeah, the final game Konami released for the platform in North America and the PAL regions. It was one of the very few like fighting games released on the NES during the fighting game boom of the early 90s. And in my opinion, it's really good actually. The soundtrack is friggin' fire, you guys. It's like one of my favorite soundtracks on the entire Nintendo Entertainment System, and that's saying something because like Konami put out a lot of bangers on the NES. So did Capcom, so did Nintendo. It's so good. I mean, it's not like it's a 2-button fighting game, admittedly. Also, full disclosure, this is one of the games that we played at my grandparents' house growing up because my cousin Kurt bought a copy because he didn't have a Super Nintendo yet. But yeah, he got Tournament Fighters for the NES, and there's only like 7 characters. There's the 4 turtles, then Casey Jones, then Hothead, and then Shredder, who is like the most OP person ever, and he's banned. Like if you use Shredder, you have to play against another Shredder, and then you also will probably get dead armed if you use Shredder. Like you pick Shredder, you're gonna get a shot right in the arm from like me or my cousin Jordan, and then we're gonna counterpick Shredder and then whoop you. Shredder's like broken in this game. Second most broken character is Casey Jones, and he's my favorite. I think the Casey versus Shredder matchup, very compelling. I think Casey Jones wins most of the time because he's got a better projectile. I think he has the best projectile in the game because it stuns. We got fighting game knowledge happening right now. Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't think it's better than these, but still very good. Flawed but fun, very apt. And then Tournament Fighters. Yeah. It's pretty cowabunga. It's definitely the best of the 3. It's got the most characters. I believe it has the most interesting story and boss characters. The boss characters in this game, like Karai, who I believe in the comics replaced Shredder as the head of the Foot Clan after Shredder dies in the first copy of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, released in like 1984. That's insane. He's dead. And then he's like the main villain in most of the other Turtles material. Makes no sense. But yeah, there's this shark dude. I forget what his name is. But he's pretty cool. There's a couple different ninja people like Asuka and obviously Karai. Shredder's in it, and then he's got Chrome Dome. Like there's all these different fun, wacky characters that I'm pretty sure were only made just so they could sell more action figures because that's what they did back then. But yeah, it's actually pretty well balanced with the exception of Karai or whatever her name is, the final boss, who will just like take 80% of your health bar in like 3 hits. But yeah, good game. The best Ninja Turtles fighting game. Moving on. So that was like 1993 or 94. Let's check the good old Wikipedia. 93 for Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. 94 for the NES. So yeah, 94 for the NES. Like it's a long time. This is a collector's game. I keep trying to tell. So my grandparents aren't in possession of that anymore. I believe either my aunt and uncle have it for their grandkids, or maybe my cousin Kurt has his NES back. I don't know. I have to ask, but I think this game, like when I look it up, yeah, for an unopened one, it's like $400, which is a little crazy. Yeah, he could easily get like $50 out of it. So that's crazy, dog. That's nuts. So after '94, like they didn't make any Turtles games. I don't know why. There was like, except for like the Tiger handheld games, which I obviously didn't count, but there were literally like 900 of those in the early '90s. Like you couldn't walk into a Kroger without someone throwing you a frickin' Ninja Turtles Tiger Electronics game at you. They were all over the place back then. You guys don't know what it was like. People are like, oh, you like video games? Here's a Tiger Electronics handheld. You're like, thanks. This I'll enjoy this for 2 minutes, maybe not even that. Like, oh, cool, a worse version of Sonic Spinball. Fantastic, thank you. But I digress. After that, 2003, I believe Konami was still doing these. Yes, the 2003 Ninja Turtles reboot. Pretty good series, in my opinion. Pretty good series. I prefer it to the 1987 original series. It's a bit darker. It's a bit edgier because that's what we all did in the early 2000s. Is we were a bit darker, a bit edgier. We were a changed people in the early 2000s. We were very depressed. I don't know. Well, I know why, but I'm not going to say it. So TMNT for the Game Boy Advance. Pretty good, not multiplayer, so single player affair. 4 turtles, each have their own campaign, different styles of gameplay, different pros and cons. I really, really like this game. I think this is probably, it's very cowabunga, folks. The Game Boy Advance, people sleep on these games. There's some absolute bangers on the Game Boy Advance, you guys. I think people sleep on that system. I am in the process of collecting more of them right now, and I'm gonna rip them and put them on like old, I guess they're not old, on like handhelds, and I'm building like an arcade cabinet here soon after things settle down. But like Game Boy Advance games are killer good. Like they're so good. But yeah, this follows the plot of like the first season of the 2003 reboot. Very good game. I wish there was multiplayer, but the action's very good. It's like a beat 'em up, but the special moves you can charge up. They don't cost health, which is like my favorite. That automatically makes it a good beat 'em up in my eyes, because I like being given more options and probably being a little more overpowered than I should be. I like having like normal and heavy attacks, being able to switch things up, have combos. TMNT, very good. TMNT 2 Battle Nexus, very similar. And I'm gonna bump this up a little bit because you can actually like, if you can actually play multiplayer, even though playing multiplayer on the Game Boy Advance was a nightmare. Because you had to like shove an umbilical cord into both you and your friends or your brother's Game Boy Advance. So yeah, that's horror. And then they had this like weird 4-way. Let me look at this Game Boy Advance link cable. Like, look at this. Look at this. Why would God let us do this? I don't understand. This is such a mess. This is a fire hazard. I don't understand. But if you could do this, you could play like 4-player multiplayer with this game. That's insane. That's so cool. You could have 4-player Turtles games on the go. That's super cool. If I had 4 friends that actually played Ninja Turtles games back in 2004, yeah. So again, we're not going over, just as a reminder, we're not going over the 3D games from this era or any 3D games in general, really. There's some caveats. Mostly because I didn't play those. And 2, because I enjoy Turtles in 2D more than 3D. Okay, and then the third game came out on DS and not Game Boy Advance. Still very good. I believe, you could do Wi-Fi. So I believe these are basically interchangeable at this point. As you can see, like, the Turtles games are kind of stacked, and then kind of not stacked down here, which is good. That's about to change very quickly. So a lot of people like the TMNT Ubisoft games on like the Wii, Xbox 360, PlayStation. I don't think it's a bad game, but I also do not like the Game Boy Advance Ubisoft game. It's more of like a Final Fight game. I don't think that fits the Turtles very well. It's like a very slow paced. It's so slow. I don't feel like a ninja. I feel like I'm Mike Hagar. Like Raphael, like you can pick up like bats and stuff. Like, I guess the Turtles have used guns in the comics and stuff, but like that's, to me, that's not what I think about when, like, if you have size, why would you pick up a baseball bat? I don't understand. Like, if you have like a katana or something, like, why would you already have a weapon and it's better than a baseball bat. I don't understand. Like, you could throw a baseball bat, that would make sense. But yeah, it's good. Like, it's playable. I just don't like it. Like, it's no, you belong here, in my opinion. You belong here. I'm sorry, TMNT Ubisoft. Sorry, not sorry. And then let me get the order of this correct. And there were a couple other 2D-ish games. There was like a Power Stone type game called TMNT Mutant Melee that I did not play. And again, that's a 3D game, but it's a bit more arcadey. Yeah, there was a ton of mobile and plug-and-play games. I think one of the the TMNT plug-and-play games was actually kind of good, but I don't want to emulate a plug-and-play game, and I don't want to go out and buy one. And let's look at TMNT Plug and Play. This is from like 2007. Like, I don't want to. Yeah, $100. I'm not doing this. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. So after TMNT 2007, aka just Final Fight but worse, in my opinion, there was TMNT Turtles Smash Up, which is a Super Smash Brothers style fighting game, if you can call Smash Brothers a fighting game. I love Smash Brothers. I wasn't super into this, and it was only on the Wii and PlayStation 2, so not very cowabunga. I mixed these up. TMNT Turtles in Time Reshelled. I remember when Ubisoft announced they were remaking Turtles in Time. I'm like, that's fantastic. I love me some Turtles in Time. This game, I loathe. I hate this game. It's like someone watched gameplay of Turtles in Time and decided, I hate all of this. It's bad. It's not good. So instead of facing either left or right, and the Ubisoft Era Games all did this. And there's a couple more of these, but I'm not even bothered putting them on the list because they're all bad. They're not good. Instead of just having a traditional fighting game where you attack left and right and then you can move up and down, but you're only attacking left and right. This is having you attack in all 360 degrees. So you can perform an attack and you're just gonna like go up diagonal. Like if there's a guy right there, and like when you attack, you move forward. I hate it. I hate it so much. And gotta compose myself. It's not good. It's bad. It's bad, and it should feel bad. They obviously, because it's Ubisoft and not Konami, they did not get the rights for like the music, and so the music is just this. I mean, it kind of sounds like it belongs in a Turtles game, but it's like it feels like it's not finished. Like someone made like a demo on like Bandcamp or something, and it just like it sounds professional, but it's not as vibrant or fun or colorful or interesting as the original Turtles in Time games. The turtles look weird. They got like neon bandanas, I guess, to help differentiate. I mean, I didn't have any trouble differentiating which turtle was which in the arcade. I don't know, and they didn't glow, so I don't know what the issue was. They did not include any of the cool levels or the cool like extra levels from the SNES port, which I was very disappointed in, because I believe the SNES port, the flow in general of the SNES port is a bit better than the arcade game. That's why I have it above the arcade game. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's just not good. It's not good. Although they did include like the new style special attacks. I don't remember. Don't make me play this game. I don't remember if the special attacks take away health or not. I don't think they do. I don't remember them doing so. Okay, and then last of these that we're covering today, the arcade attack on Nintendo DS. This was the last TMNT game published by Ubisoft. It's a side-scrolling beat-em-up style in the same vein as Turtles in Time, reshelled. It's about as bad, but I hate Turtles in Time more. After this, I kind of stopped giving a crap about Turtles games. Obviously. There have been some good ones recently. I think the best Ninja Turtles fighting game now is Injustice 2, because they were in there as DLC. Injustice 2, everything that NetherRealm Studios has put out, like under like WB Games, has been fire. It's been great. They haven't put out a bad game. So after Ubisoft had their way with the Turtles franchise, Activision picked it up, put out a couple of okay games. I think Out of the Shadows came out in 2013, loosely based on the 2012 reboot. Pretty good. If I put it anywhere, to be probably as bad as Late Pizza. Apparently they're in Smite. I had no idea. There's another Ninja Turtles game on the 360, 3DS, all that kind of stuff. I think that's the newer Nickelodeon style. From what I remember, not very good. Mutants in Manhattan came out in 2016. I can't find a copy of it anymore. I would very much so like to play this because Platinum Games made it. It got pretty lukewarm to terrible reviews. But from what I've seen, it'd be either flawed but fun or very tail end of Cowabunga. And what I'm super excited for coming up soon is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, developed by Tribute Games and published by Emu, which are the guys responsible for publishing the fantastic Streets of Rage 4. Super cool. I am so excited. This is probably like my number one look forward to game right now is Shredder's Revenge. Like, no joke. I'm partly building that arcade cabinet with Steam functionality specifically so I can play Shredder's Revenge with an arcade stick. Like, I am super hyped for this game. And in the meantime, if you want a good Ninja Turtles game, I highly recommend Rescue Palooza. So this is a fan game. If you just Google it, it's made in the same vein as like the Turtle NES games. So it's very similar to Manhattan Project, but it's got little aspects of the other retro Turtles games. And the premise is that Shredder has captured everyone, literally everyone, and you have to beat levels to get the people back. And so there's like Usagi Yojimbo, April O'Neil, Casey, like all these different cool, and sometimes not, like there's Vern from like the 87 cartoon, like it's based heavily on the 87 cartoon series. And basically everyone that's ever showed up in the video games across like the fighting games in the early 90s. If you're in the early 90s, like Ninja Turtles, like this is the game. Very fun. Up to 4-player compatible. I believe local only unless you use something like Parsec, which I've done with my brother. We still need to finish this one up. But if you want a good Turtles fix in the meantime, like Turtles Rescue Palooza, I don't know why the box art wouldn't upload, but I would put it. I'd put it above TMNT. I enjoy a lot of the gameplay more in the 16-bit style beat 'em ups, but The 8-bit style is also very fun, and especially here where you've got special moves that you can use, and it's a recharging bar, so you can't spam the special moves, but they also don't take away health. It's so fun to play. There's so many different characters to use. I highly, again, recommend Rescue Palooza. Play this while you're waiting for Shredder's Revenge. Okay. So, if you guys want to make your own tier list, here it is right here. The classic TMNT games made by me. It's on tiermaker.com. I'll put a template in the video description. So I like doing this. I'll probably be doing something similar next month, and then hopefully we'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming after this. So, all right, so this was my classic TMNT games tier list. I've been Dad, and I'll see you next time with more Games with Dad.